Right.
I did that. All right, I didn't tell you guys about this. I didn't even tell Tony about this. So I had my cup. I was like, oh, I need some water before I go to bed. So I tell my wife, and it was already like 1 o'clock. I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna go down to the lobby and get some water. I didn't know anybody was down there, and then lo and behold, on my way are you two, and then what 3 a.m. I get back to my hotel room I fall asleep, and then the next morning I was like, yeah, I ran into people, and my wife's like, I figured, or you died, but I was going to sleep either way. Chris,
Yeah, Chris is
Right.
you're coming off of a conservatory, right?
Yeah, just had two actually. Well, a music and arts camp, and then two conservatory.
And are you going
Yeah.
to Texas? Do you go to that?
No, I'm going to CMI, the Central Music Institute in Wisconsin, actually, in next week. Next week, actually.
So as somebody like I work a lot of those things, right? But I'm not a Salvationist myself, so like Texas is the one I hear about, but I don't know. I didn't know. Are there other big like regional ones to go to as
Yep.
well? Huh.
Yeah, there's four of them in the U.S., one in Canada, and there's stuff overseas as well. But yeah,
You
each
guys,
territory in the U.S. has one.
you all have a good camp.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice. The big music and arts camp, we hadn't had that for a couple summers, obviously. And, so it was good to get that going. I was fortunate to be able to do both conservatories each of the last 2 summers. So that was quite easy to fill up because the kids and the parents were used to doing it. It never stopped. And so um, it was easy to get all the numbers for that. The big was a little harder. The numbers were a little down, but everyone that was there had a great time. And I had Philip Hanovic from Norway as my guest for that camp, which was really good to reconnect with him in person. So we've been friends for about 15 years.
That sounds like a fun
Yeah,
time.
it was
Is
cool.
5 Lakes? Are there, you guys rehearsing, or do y'all take summer off?
We get basically 2 months in the summer. So our last gig was at the M1 racetrack in Pontiac, Michigan, which is a basically like an amusement park for wealthy people. Um, it is. I mean, they've all got their garages with their decked out sports cars and things, and they sort of show them off and get to drive them on the track. And they have this thing they call a tin roof music festival because all the garages are tin roofs. And so they invited a bunch of different music groups to participate in the day. Really, it's sort of like entertainment, background music. And there was a couple that came to our Christmas concert, and I met them at the intermission, and they loved the band and invited us to do this. So we were like last groups on, and everybody sort of got their lawn chairs and came down the other end of the sort of road we were on, and we had quite a nice crowd gathered around. So we played a concert for quite a few multimillionaires. It was pretty cool. Made some nice contacts there. So hopefully some good things for the future for the band. But that was our last gig. That was the second week of June, and then we get back mid August. So right after CMI, I would jump back into Five Lakes rehearsals. Yeah, which would be cool. It's funny because we do the 2 months off, and people ask other bands. There are other bands that go right through. I said I think it's important, you know, mentally, family wise, to get a little bit of a break for people. But it's interesting with our group because we'll get 2 3 weeks into that break, and I start getting text messages from people on Wednesdays on a rehearsal day, and they're like, "Man, I feel like we should be rehearsing tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, me too." It gets tough, but it's nice when we get back. Everybody's just so excited to be back together, working again. So we're
Yeah, I feel
looking
like
forward to it.
for my band, just we have so many teachers and Salvationists that it would be mutiny if like we didn't take July off. It would just
Right,
be
right.
absolute mutiny. And Triangle just got you guys just had that. Didn't you guys just play a concert? Was that the Carolina Brass Band?
it was we our last concert was June 25th. We take July and August off. Maybe it was a North Carolina brass band that was doing something. It wasn't
Ah,
us.
okay.
Our people scatter, so
Yeah,
vacations and stuff. The band used to play a lot of summer stuff, and over the years, it's just gotten dwindled and dwindled, and less participation from the players. So it's just the way it's kind of evolved.
See, we get asked, and keep in mind I'm in Florida. we get asked to do like 4th of July outside parade concert type things, and I'm like, no. I've been to
Yeah.
Disney in July. You don't know. I'm not gonna do that. I'm
Right.
not doing that.
Yeah. A little different in Michigan.
Not right now. I'm hearing it's pretty hot up there right now.
Vacation up in the Upper Peninsula, so it's like 70s,
Oh,
which
okay.
is nice.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
This is terrible. So, Chris, one of the things that I think I don't know a lot of people know about is that the Paul Lovett Cooper Peace Commission was pretty much you. You're the one
Right.
that kind of really spearheaded and made that happen.
So some
Uh,
bands would say thank you, and some bands, on the other hand,
There's a bounty out.
we were just talking to Kevin Stees, and his band at JMU just played it in at the World Music Conference.
That's right. Yeah.
Contest, and that's the first international performance of it, or first performance of it really outside of the Nabosphere here. And I was telling him, I was like, I probably listened to that piece more than anybody else on the planet, aside from maybe Paul. Because I've listened to all the performances. I listened to it at Gateway a couple of times when I was judging there, and I've done a lot of analysis of the adjudication comments from the judges from the championship. So I've listened to every performance again. So I've got more plays of that, and every time I listen to it, I like it more.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. And I'm just convinced that piece is going to be a masterwork that everybody's going to love playing.
Yeah, I agree. Even just sitting there at NABA on the night, I mean, I was excited because Paul's been a good friend for years and years, and excited for him because it's about his personal story.
Yeah.
His life, how it was before he had a stroke, and then as it happened, and the recovery, and then the comeback kind of thing. So that's the title, and from the darkness. It was his darkness, and it was really, really cool to hear it in person after talking through it with him for a couple of years, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to just to hear the different interpretations of it, who got in there, and it was really enjoyable. But I agree with you. The more I heard it, the more I loved the piece.
That's kind of an interesting thing that we don't get in like the North American sphere. A lot of times, it's like us getting the premiere of a piece by 6, 7, 8 bands back to back to back to back, all with different interpretations and all that sort of a thing. We don't, in contests, we don't get that super frequently here, so that was really special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because it was a brand new work, nobody had a recording they could match it off of. They really had to do their own thing to make it come to life.
Yeah, which was cool hearing all the bands, give their own interpretation of something, and not like, because with a piece that's been around, You're the Dragon or something as an example, right? Everybody's got that Britannia Building Society,
right,
recording performance in their head, and it's always the bar is here before you've even got on stage, So to have something fresh and new is really cool once in a while, because there's no preconceived ideas from anybody.
Right. Yeah, and it was really cool to have Paul here, as an adjudicator and everything. Because you've known him for years, but for the rest of us, we just got to meet him, and he was every bit like you said ahead of time. You got to get him here. He's so much fun and he's so good, and he was just a blast to have around for the weekend. He was such a delightful person to have around with us. And because I dealt with him a lot, dealing with a lot of the adjudicators. So I was dealing with him a lot, and we had a blast. It was so much fun.
Yeah, he's really down to earth, and he's just a good guy. He's a fun guy to be around, and he doesn't take himself too seriously. You think a lot of guys that have a name like that, you get a bit of stardom in our world, and think it goes to their head. He's the opposite. I mean, he's really a humble guy and fun to be around.
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised if you're walking up to somebody like that and they're a little bit of a jerk. Like, you wouldn't be surprised, right?
Right.
We're almost surprised that there's no capacity of jerkdom, which he was not.
Which is kind of sad, right?
Yeah, here we are, but
right.
Yeah. Well, he had none of that. We had a really cool experience with him. Um, the Watson brass band played Fire in the Blood,
That's
and
right.
of course those kids just hit it out of the park. And then Paul Levitt Cooper, like I grabbed him. He was talking to David Childs in the concessions line, and the kids just had finished playing it. I said, Paul, come with me, and I just grabbed him away from David Childs in this conversation, so rudely, and took him into the room where the storage room, case storage room for where the Watson band was. And I said, hey kids, you guys were great. Hey, guess who this is? This is Paul Levitt Cooper. And he was like, you guys were amazing. And those kids had the time of their lives. They assaulted him on the stage after the awards, so because they were so excited.
It was great.
Yeah, it was so good.
Is Dave Childs one of those guys that like you have to say his last name? Like those guys that you know that are like they're like it's Dave Childs, not just Dave. You can never say just Dave.
Well,
say Dave Childs.
We had a couple pretty famous Davids at NABA, right? You have David King, you got David Childs. You kind of, I guess you do kind of have to specify there, but
yeah, which Dave are you talking about?
Yeah, right. You just have those guys like you grow up with those guys, and like you go back to the high school reunion, and they're like, "Oh, John," you're like, "John? Oh, John Smith, John?" Like, and you're just like, "Oh, no one's ever said other than John Smith their names or whatever." And David Childs, that strikes me in that way.
Well, yeah, when your name is John or Dave or Mike or Chris, yeah, you have to specify which one you're talking about.
Right.
When you have a name like Tony, nobody really, oh yeah, Tony, yeah. It's really easy.
Unless you go into a pizza joint, and then it's okay. Oh, Tony with the Y or the I?
Oh, always with the Y.
Yeah.
So Chris, the new thing that's come up is that the U.S. Open is moving to Michigan, and and this is the new project that you and all the bands up in Michigan are taking on. So why don't you talk us through a little bit about what's going on with that? Like, when is that happening?
Sure. November 19th is the contest, which we talked about dates. It's tough in the fall in general, but November 19th is the weekend after a lot of the national marching band contests and things are done. So, and it's the last one before Thanksgiving. So we kind of were fortunate to tuck that in there. We've done a lot. We've got the Great Lakes Brass Band Association that we started and keeps growing, which is really cool. It's the committee that's putting this together. A lot of brainstorming, amending of different things that have been in the rules and registration and things. And that's all going to come out very soon. There's going to be another big announcement soon within the next week or two. We're working with the Niermeyers on finalizing some of these things and putting it on the website, getting that all up to date, and then opening up the registration. So, yeah, we're hosting it at Clarkston Performing Arts Center, which is at Clarkston High School in Michigan here, and it's a great venue. We've played a concert there before. One of the guys in our band teaches at the school, and I think the bands will really enjoy playing there. We have that Buskers competition is coming back, which is sort of solo ensemble. And that's on a Friday night. And again, one of the guys on the committee knew the owner of a brewery up in Oxford, which is near Clarkston, called Gravel Capital Brewery. And the guy's been really good in the community there, and he was super excited about the idea of hosting that and having the entertainment on the evening. And he even agreed. I was told he even agreed to brew a beer for the U.S. Open, which is kind of cool. So they're going to call it the Busker Brown. And the official beer of the 2022 U.S. Open Brass Band Championship. So that'll be kind of cool.
Busking, the only way a brass band member would make any money.
Right.
Yeah.
So that
paid in beers. Winner gets 3 beers.
So it's gonna be
We'll put you
cool,
Arbin for a Busker Brown.
right? So that's gonna be a cool venue for that. I went to check out. They've got a little area in the front where they usually have bands or comedy shows or quiz nights and things like that. So that'll be good. And then the contest on Saturday at that Performing Arts Center, in which like vendors in there. So we've got subcommittees for everything, as you know, because you run that with NABA. So yeah, it's coming together. It's exciting. Sometimes it's a little, frustrating. You're going through all this stuff behind the scenes, and you just want people to know what's happening. And it's like, all right, we got to get this information out, right? I've been there. I think we've had these conversations on NABA boards as well. So that's coming soon. We're at that point. I've been messaging with some bands that have been there in the past, just getting feedback from people. What did you like? What would you do different, and why, kind of thing. And we've really talked about that a lot as a committee. The committee includes people from, I want to say 6 or 7 different bands in Michigan and Ohio, which is really cool. And we're looking to expand, maybe to get some of our friends in Canada involved, because we're all bordering the Great Lakes. So that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and we're really looking to have a full day of bands at the Open, double-digit band. Yeah,
that seems really cool to be able to get 6 or 7 different bands to provide people for the committee to work on that. It's like a total buy-in from a bunch. Hopefully, it'll ensure that it's going to be a thriving contest.
Yeah, and when we initially talked about it, I talked with Clark Niermeyer, and I said, this committee, it's important we get representation from as many bands as we can on it, because it's not a Five Lakes Silver Band event. It's not a Motor City Brass Band event. This is a Great Lakes event we're putting on, which is the U.S. Open Band Championships. So it's not one band hosting it. It's a collective effort, which is good. And it also keeps everyone in line as far as integrity and transparency and things like that, which is important.
It's really specific too to like that region of the United States to be able to pull that off in that way. There's only a handful of places where there's that many bands that could input in that way, shape, and form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great area. There's so many bands in Michigan and Ohio and like neighboring states here. Canada obviously as well, right next door to Detroit there. So we're excited. We're looking forward to it. We've had some real positive conversations with bands that are very interested in coming back to the U.S. Open now. So we're very optimistic that this is going to be a great event in November. So registration will open up very soon, and our deadline is going to be the 24th of September, which is important. That we thought it's important bands are able to get into their next season and know what they have before they have to commit to something like that.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure, because some people do know this, but if you're watching the YouTube version of this, the link for the competition will be in our description. So if you're interested in registering, keep track on that link as well. Just want to make sure we put that out there, because some people forget that we talk about these things, but like want to make sure that we have that call to action, because I'm sure somebody listening to this will want to look into registering for their band or just to attend and just hang out for themselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be really exciting. We're really looking forward to it. And
you said it's in November, right?
November 19th.
Yeah, there's worse places to be than Michigan in November. I'm sure it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Could be in Ohio. Hey, Chris.
They'll be up with us.
Yeah.
Hey, man, we're all on this committee together.
It's like 1 week before the big Michigan-Ohio State game, isn't it?
It is. So we'll all be best friends for the banding, and then then we're right back to the way we were. Me and Pat Eric can, razz each other about Ohio State and Michigan.
I look forward to seeing that horizon going on. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
They play football up north.
They did last
Yeah.
year, but it's the first time in many years.
Yeah. So was there a lot of like conversation for making the transition, or was it just kind of like, hey, we want to do this, what can we do, or how did that kind of go about?
For the U.S. Open to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
I was approached. Well, all right. So I'll back up a little. We
Because
were talking about.
just for
Oh,
transparency's sake, it's been in like
yeah.
Chicago, right, for the most part. I just don't know.
It's been in Chicago and then Kansas City for a
Yeah, it's
couple.
been in Illinois,
Okay.
and yeah, yeah. So we were kicking around the idea of starting our own competition up here, maybe something like the Great Lakes Open or something. We've been talking for a couple of years, and sort of brainstorming a little bit. How would we do that? How would that look? Who could we get to come to it? And then I was approached by Clark Niermeyer, the owner of the U.S. Open, and just said, "Hey, we're looking to move this event. Are you guys interested in potentially hosting it in Michigan?" And I said, "Yeah, we'd be interested. What are you thinking? You know?" And so he gave me a few. Well, we had quite a long conversation about things and a bit of the history with the Open and what what they were after initially and what it's turned into and what they would like. And basically, if you guys do this, you can sort of make it your own. But we would like to have X, Y, and Z involved somehow, kind of thing. So I said, okay, well, let me talk to a few people and see what we can do. Um, and it was just the timing was quite good, because we were really, like I said, we were on the verge of putting our own contest together. So that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah.
It
I
really
mean,
just sort of fell in my lap.
timing is all the key to when things can happen. Because if the call would have come 6 months ago, it probably wouldn't have happened. But Clark called me and asked, as president of NABA, and asked me if I had any ideas about what to do with it. And that's, I nudged him to Chris, knowing that you guys were thinking about doing a contest. I was like, Chris would be the perfect person to do this. And the timing was right. And it all just kind of fell together because of all the work there. So I think it's going to be a great partnership there to make
Yeah.
that event thrive, and be a great event.
Yeah, and as I said, we really do have a great committee of people. I mean, they are fully committed to making this a great event. So it's exciting to see it come together piece by piece. You know,
Yeah. So
so
hopefully a lot of bands will, start their season up and then decide to get out and go. It's a different type of contest than it's an entertainment contest, which means that you can play whatever you want and just have a great time. Play something that's fun or
yeah,
entertaining.
which is great to have in the fall, an entertainment contest for bands,
Yeah.
because you can throw it on your concerts earlier in the fall. Whatever
Yeah.
you're gonna do, first half of your concert or whatever, and
Right. You can play easier music. You don't have to play like a wicked hard test piece. You can, do more of a pop style type of contest. You can dress up in costumes if you want. I'm
right.
looking forward to
It
seeing
reminds
what
me
Five
so much
Lakes
of
does in
like
their costumes.
it reminds me a lot of like the brass and concert
It's
Yeah,
competition
it's
type
kind
of
of
an idea, kind of that
yeah,
idea.
it's kind of patterned after that.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's cool too because you see a lot of bands. We see a lot of the same bands winning every like within a decade. You see a lot of the same names winning certain sections sometimes when it comes to NAB and stuff like that. And I feel like with this one, it varies a little bit more. And you
yeah,
can cross sections too. Like it's not necessarily only championship section bands can win this thing.
yeah,
A lot more.
yeah. We have two sections, um, which I believe Lee Harrelson started doing in Kansas City, like a championship and like an A and a B, or a championship and challenge or whatever, right? So um, when we talked about it, we thought, we definitely, everybody 100% on the committee said two sections is the way to go, and even some of the feedback from bands that have participated in the past really really like the idea of two sections, because you can go where you feel you belong, and have a chance to get placed. And there's also the most entertaining band as an award as well, which can be any band in either section
Are you
on the day.
are you still going to have some of the things that they did in the past, like best new arrangement or original composition,
Hmm.
or best soloist, best, all those small caption type awards?
Yeah, um, we had said that some of those things we're going to keep for sure. I like the best new composition. It encourages writers,
Yeah,
and bands to get commissioned done. I mean, we commissioned a piece for NABA for our band, as did Huntsville.
yeah, Huntsville did too.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. So, yeah,
Just
we want
bands
new
to like,
repertoire out there. So that's going to be a award.
yeah, and it encourages the bands to play
Yeah.
new stuff too.
Yeah.
And it's go figure. It's kind of interesting too because like, don't get me wrong. Of course, I love the NABA competition the way it is, but like a lot of times it can be like get the right note as right as you can, higher, faster, louder, like exactness, and like it's like there's something different about like okay, let's entertain an audience now instead of playing as correct as possible. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's like the mindset that everybody goes into NABA with, but it's like I feel like in especially in art music, like classical music, we forget to entertain sometimes. Sometimes. Yeah.
Well, I mean we could have a whole conversation on what is entertaining.
Right.
You talk about subjective.
It's when I dress in a grass skirt and do the hula, is what I've been told.
Is that entertaining?
Yeah, to
I
some.
mean, it's just entertaining to your wife, man.
Listen, you're somebody's Cinderella, all right? Yeah.
That's going to be
Yeah.
a fascinating thing because a contest like the U.S. Open can kind of, in an evolutionary way, set the standard of what entertainment really is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I've watched and talked to a lot of people involved in the Cities competition over in Norway, which is a cool one as well. Another entertainment contest. Obviously, brass and concert in the UK. Um, so, yeah, I think there's gonna be some really good stuff again from some of the bands that we've spoken to that said they want to go. There's some bands already planning what they're going to do, which is exciting. I mean, our goal is to have to say we got to put you on a waiting list, because you can only fit so many in a day, So yeah, so we're hoping, to be able to fit, 12 to 14 bands. That'll be the max.
Yeah, that would be an amazing day. That would be.
Oh, it'd be incredible. Yeah. So it's cool. It's exciting for the area, definitely. And as I said before, there's a lot of brass banding happening in Michigan, and I've been pretty intentional, with trying to get a lot of the bands to come together, and work together on things. And there's some really good people in all these bands here, and it's happening. This is just another thing that's brought a lot of people in the area, and even south of the border in Ohio together. You know.
Yeah. Well, Michigan's had a good year for brass banding this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's been really good. A lot of exciting things. A lot of exciting things happening.
Good showing at NABA with some bands placing there, and um, some new bands forming, and you know and I think with you kind of showing some leadership there and getting everybody together, it's exactly what brass banding should be, is developing a community and a camaraderie.
Yeah, yeah. Because at the most, what do how much are you competing against each other? At the most, a couple days a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Dublin. For us, we went to Dublin
like twice.
NABA.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you add in the U.S. Open, so a few times a year, and the rest of the time you should be for each other. Even on the day, honestly, I want everyone to play their best. I want to enjoy listening. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I think that
how little smack talking there is, like, and even on competition day, like, people get sour about scores or whatever, but but people are like, oh, usually, like, no one's going after each other's bands necessarily. I feel.
Yeah, it's a very, it was fun that that people did not like the distance to the restaurants in Huntsville, because it took time away from listening to the bands. It was just a long walk to get over there through the art festival and all that stuff. It's like, no, I mean, that's kind of a cool thing, that people want to go watch the bands and support the other bands. And, I think that's one of the real, gems of the North American brass banding scene right now is that it's so supportive.
Well, and we're so small. I mean, like overall, like it's such a large country, but we don't get a chance. Like, I don't get to see in the state of Florida. I don't. It's the opportunity to go see the Five Lake Silver Band, for instance, is very low, except for this one weekend in Alabama this past year. You know,
Hmm.
and if I want to see those groups, you know, this is my chance to do it. And then the other, but if even just here, the other closest band we're blessed is about an hour and a half or 3 hours, depending on how I-4 is being, you know, to us, you know. And so my opportunity to see our opportunity to see bands is low, but
Right.
also like the movement itself is so small but so important to the development of art in the country that we can't be, you know, nasty to each other. There's not enough time.
Yeah,
No.
I agree.
And anyone that's that way isn't worth your time, you know.
Yeah, and then get out one
This
movie.
is about making this the best we can, you know. This is about making music at the highest level and enjoying it, having fun doing it, you know, and encouraging each other. I love seeing all the new bands come to NABA and all these contests and all the regionals that are popping up everywhere. It's great. It's what we want.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of regionals. Well, a lot of the regionals, have been happening, but we're going to start to try to promote them more, so that there's just more notoriety with them. You
Yeah.
know, so I think it's really cool. We are getting the Toronto regional back. The University of Toronto and the group of several bands, just like yours. It's not one band that's doing it, but several bands are kind of getting together to put together an event. So there's going to be a Canadian event next May, which will be pretty awesome. We'll have an episode where we'll get some of those guys that are organizing that to come talk on our podcast at some point too.
That'll
But
be
it's
cool.
super cool. It's super cool, man. You know that there's people that are starting things up and fighting over names of their collaborative organizations and stuff like that. It's great.
Oh, it is. Yeah, and that's something that a lot of our bands will be interested in. Toronto's about 45 minutes from us.
Yeah,
That's an easy trip. Yeah,
yeah,
it's kind
yeah.
of
It's
cool.
very cool. If you yeah, so yeah. So I think I don't know if some of our listeners will know about, you know, what the first part of your career before going to Michigan was, but you were um an E-flat soprano player with the New York staff band for a long time, weren't you?
Yeah, um, yeah. I was in the band. I got in the band in 1995 when I was a senior. Just actually auditioned in my junior year, the end of the junior year, and yeah, and was in it until 2018. So quite a long time, and the last 11 years on soprano, which was cool. I grew up watching my dad play soprano in the staff band, and always wanted to do that and sit in that chair. And then it happened, and it was a lot of fun for a lot of years. And my brother played solo horn. My sister was in the band at one point. My youngest sister subbed with the band at one point. So all four of us at some point wore that tunic, which was kind of
Wow.
cool.
Are you guys trying to
Um,
push the Holtzes for the most people in the Salvation Army staff band?
well, none of us are playing in it anymore. But no, it was a lot of fun, and I worked in New York City and Long Island and surrounding areas as a assistant music director for the Salvation Army out there for um, man 16 years.
Yeah. So
And a
Yeah,
pretty intense recording schedule too, right? Performance and recording schedule.
yeah, yeah. You're a weekend away every month with the band, so it was a lot. Yeah, for a lot of years.
what was the impetus or what moved you to Michigan?
It was really Harold Bergmeyer, who is the territorial music secretary out here for the Salvation Army. He sort of blind copied me on a couple of emails about this job in Michigan. And I texted him and said, Harold, why do you keep copying me on this? I got a job, man. I'm from New York. I belong in New York, you know? And he said, I don't know. I just keep thinking about you, for this job. There's so much banding in the area, in the Salvation Army and outside the Army. He said, I think this is just tailor made for someone like you, this area. And so I eventually um, made a visit, came out for a day visit in December of 17, and talked with the leaders here and was offered the job and talked it over with my wife quite a bit. She came in totally blind to this because I'm the one that visited. She didn't.
Yeah.
And we ended up moving here in March of 18. And yeah, and the rest is history. I was asked to sub with Five Lakes for NABA that year because I knew one of the tuba players in the band, Keith Morton, whose son and I used to have an apartment together in New York. He signed Morton. We played in the staff band together. So that was the connection, really. So I played with him in 2018. And then at the end of 2000, and yeah, and then did a little bit with concert with a couple concerts with Oakland University Band with Ken Crushy, helping them out a little bit. Got to know them and some of the young people in his band, and that it's a really cool program up there, and it's just up the road from us. Motor City, they rehearse at my headquarters, as does Five Lakes Silver Band. So there's been a close connection with all these groups in the area here. So it's been really cool. Yeah.
So you went from an assistant director to the head director in Michigan.
Yeah, and now we've just combined. They've merged the two divisions in Michigan of the Salvation Army. East and West is now the Great Lakes Division. So, yeah. So my title changed again. I'm not concerned with the title really. I just want to do my job. Well, senior.
Down the.
So they call me senior director of music and gospel arts, and I said, "Is that just because I'm getting old?" Yeah.
Yeah, you get older, they start adding more things in front of director.
Right. But no, it's been great, for our family. We really love it in Michigan, and yeah, it's been really cool, and the connection with all the different bands. There's so much banding happening, and that's like, that's what I eat, sleep, and breathe. It's in my blood. I'm
really
fourth generation, in brass banding and stuff. So
yeah. Did you go to school? Did you go to college at University of Michigan?
No, I didn't. I went to Manus in Manhattan, and I went to SUNY Purchase in Westchester, just above the city there.
So what's with all the Michigan love then?
Well, when I was a kid, I've always been into sports, and we don't have any good college football out in New York. So I was a big X-Men fan as a kid, and I found out there was a football team called the Wolverines, and it just blew my mind. And it was the coolest thing. And then I saw that winged helmet and thought, that is really cool. So, yeah, I mean, I've got pictures when I was a kid with like a Desmond Howard jersey and all this stuff. I still actually have it. But so that was kind of interesting.
You're telling me that you picked you think a team named the Wolverines is more appealing than a team named the Orange?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and was it Donovan McNabb went to Syracuse, and I'm a big Giants fan, so I can't stand the Eagles, so couldn't go with that.
Also, it's a hate on there. So
right.
When you were growing up, did you get to see a lot of Michigan games on TV? Because where I grew up in Maryland, it was Ohio State and Notre Dame. That's the only thing you could watch. Every Saturday there was an Ohio State game on TV.
Yeah, there was always Wolverine games on. Yeah. Yep, for sure. And I grew up with the Fab Five for the basketball team. So
yeah.
The timeout we don't talk about,
Yeah, Carolina won a championship because of that.
Right. But yeah, no, it's cool. So I've been to a number of games since I've been here. And a buddy of mine lives in New Jersey. And he's a Detroit fan of everything. And I'm a New York fan. So throughout the day, I listen to the New York sports radio. He's listening to the Michigan sports radio in opposite places. But he comes out. We go to a game every year. And we were at that Ohio State game in the fall, which was quite a good whooping they put on him that day. Finally.
Yeah, finally a good year for Jim Harbaugh.
Well, it also helps too that you've got, I would say that the Michigan School of Music is acceptable, an extremely good school of music. And so they're also pumping out some good people to put in your bands, and
Yeah, we've been fortunate with that. I mean, especially since Dave Zirkle came to the Tuba Euphonium studio there and took that over. He played in Five Lakes Silver Band for a little while, and we've had a number of his students in the band on tuba or euphonium. We got a little tandem on euphonium right now with a couple of young guys that are quite special players. I mean, they've got a world of talent, and it's going to be fun to see where they end up going. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I know those guys, and I agree very much.
Yeah.
Very interested to see where they end up.
They're super hungry players, man. They're go after it. It's good.
Yeah. So, Aaron, do you have a question of the day?
I do. I have a kind of a fun one because we've all been kind of involved as players and conductors and all that sort of thing. So I was wondering if we could all share a story that you might have, not necessarily a long one, please, but if you have a story when your instrument or someone else's instrument, maybe if you were conducting, wasn't working quite the way you wanted it to. So I'll start this one off. We had this guy named Guy. Kid you not, that was his name. In my high school band, and we had those like terraced band seats, so the back row was higher than the middle row and all that sort of thing. And we're playing, we're doing our scales test, and the band director's going around. Right, I'm still in the euphonium section. This is high school. Band director's going around, and he gets to Guy. Keep in mind, Guy was one of the most phenomenal snare drum players, but his concert instrument was trombone, and he was dead last chair. And he goes, it's B flat scale, right, 1/6, and that slide leaves his arm. And that slide magically goes all the way down the entire row. The band director had already been mad because no one's playing their scales well. This is poor St. Louis High School. This is not going very well. He's got the vein going or whatever. And all of us, it's like one of those things where the band director's so mad, but like we're all like looking at each other. Because we want to laugh, but you're like, I don't know about that. And just the band director looking up and go, well, you gonna get it? And just like seeing the terror in that boy's face. I will never forget. And every single one of my students, I'm like, you better have a good hold on that slide. You don't know where it's going to go. It will fly. It will go out. How about you, Tony? You got one?
Yeah. I'm going to go a different route than the instrument because I'm in the process of moving right now. And I was going through a stack of like old thank you cards from back in my youth band directing days, and there was a comment in there about how it was I know how to hold on to hold on to my mute because of you. And we're playing a concert, the youth brass band's playing a concert, and this kid kicks his mute in like a real soft section. We're playing, I don't know what we were playing, I don't remember, but he was on the front row and the mute just slid out to the center in the front of the U right in front of me, and just rolled around slowly on its side in a circular motion. And it seemed like it would never stop. It was just like, and the whole audience and the whole band just has to sit here and watch this thing just go around. We just had to wait for it to stop. It was pretty funny. So my story would be, kid kicking a mute and it just rolls around in an agonizingly long time.
Oh yeah, I've got a few, but the first one that popped in my head was a percussion thing. It was the Stat Band, and we were in an annual festival, so there's a lot of people at this concert. And there was a piece that a former member of the band had written for us, and it was a real reflective piece of bells, and it was just two notes at the beginning. And the percussionist at the time forgot to take the dampener off. And so instead of a dong at the beginning, it was dong. And honestly, it was like dominoes down the row of the players, just putting your head down and trying to keep it together. And I remember just sweating profusely the rest of that piece of music. It was pretty hilarious. And Ron Wakes Norris, the conductor's up there with steam coming out his ears. He was so angry at us, but it was so hard to get it together. I mean, it's the worst thing you can do in that moment is make eye contact with somebody across the band. And of course you're kind of trying not to look, but you are. And yeah, it was pretty hilarious.
I bring this up just because it's so funny. We take things very seriously, of course, in our art form, but stupid things happen. And
yeah.
They always do.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Chris, thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah. It's good to see you guys, too.
Yeah, you too, man. Can't wait. Man, I'm really bummed I'm not going to see you in August.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. We'll keep FaceTiming and doing Zooms, and
yeah,
yeah,
man.
it's always good to talk to you, Tony, and you too, Aaron. Yeah,
You too, man. We're looking forward to the next time we get to hang.
yeah. Well, we'll have to get you both up to the Open. You know.
I'm
I'm going.
going.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.